Your buyer gave you an objection. You've cushioned the objection so that you can start to build a bridge between your view and hers. Then you clarify to make sure you fully understand her concern. Now you need a solid plan to change her perspective. Let's jump into some of the strategies on how to change your prospect's perspective. You'll need the common objections that you wrote down at the beginning of this module so that you can pause the video and practice each of the strategies we discuss and implement them to your specific needs. As we're going through these strategies, utilize the visualization technique to walk through the motions of each step and also role play different scenarios. Keep in mind, you will experience objections in a variety of circumstances. Sometimes you'll get an objection during a one-on-one conversation when your prospect is sharing a genuine concern. Sometimes your prospect might give you a very vague concern during a one-on-one dialogue. Something like, "I just need to think about it." Or a vague concern that is not honest at all because they're just not ready to decide right then and they feel like they owe you some sort of excuse. This scenario usually happens when you have not built enough trust and open communication. You'll also likely experience objections during group presentations, maybe right in the heat of the moment when you're least expecting it. Often, these objections are thrown out by a naysayer in the group who's more interested in throwing you off your game than really sharing a concern. When handled correctly, all of these variations of objections can actually be used to your advantage. So to best prepare, visualize and role play these strategies in a variety of scenarios. By now, you've practiced cushioning and clarifying the objection. So in this session, we're going to focus solely on the third step of overcoming objections, changing the prospect's perspective. There are 7 widely practiced methods used to change a buyer's perspective that we'll discuss in this module: direct denial, indirect denial, total cost of ownership, revisit needs, connect to mission critical priorities, referral, and finally, the postpone method. As we discuss each of these methods, we'll use a practice scenario where a prospect expresses a concern with the quality of the product that we're selling. We'll start with direct denial. This method takes a rather abrupt approach to denying the prospect's perspective as accurate. So after cushioning and clarifying the objection, you might say something like, "Actually, Mrs. Prospect, that is not accurate at all." From there, you might share with the prospect the recent quality industry awards you've received. Basically, direct denial is a way to stop the prospect in her tracks and explain the reality of your product or service based around her concern. In the indirect denial method, your ultimate goal is the same, however you're taking a softer approach. So after cushioning and clarifying, you may go on to explaining that her misunderstanding is fairly common and that while your company may not be known for quality, there are several tangible reasons to believe otherwise. Then, go into industry awards or a similar explanation. To recap the difference, direct denial is more of a stop in your tracks moment and set the buyer straight, while indirect denial is a softer approach to shedding light on an uncommon fact about your company. The compensation method, sometimes called the total cost of ownership method, explains that while the concern of the buyer is accurate, your solution compensates that minor problem by offering something of more importance or greater value. For example, if the quality of your product is not the highest in the market, maybe that's because it's intended for less aggressive use. In the consumer market, you may refer to a product as designed for a weekend warrior. However, the lower price makes it more accessible for these types of buyers. You can also use this method for a product that does offer the highest quality in the market and also comes with a higher price. For example, if your product costs more than a competitor's product that your prospect is also considering, you could explain that because of the better quality or better warranty, the total cost of ownership is actually lower in the long run. The revisit needs method is best utilized when a prospect expresses an objection that contradicts another need that you uncovered during the needs analysis phase of your discussion. In the example on your screen, you're selling a product to a retail outlet. Overall, your product's target audience fits your buyer's needs they shared with you earlier in the meeting, even though the quality may not be the highest in the market. While the connect to priorities method has a similar end goal as the revisit needs method, the main difference here is that you have to help the buyer clearly connect how your product is going to help with a bigger picture mission critical priority. For example, if your price is higher due to offering a better quality product, Your job is to show the buyer that she needs this level of quality to achieve her priority goals that you unveiled earlier in the conversation. In the referral method, you are referring back to a current client that had a similar concern before using your product, and after implementing your solution, found that the concerns were unwarranted. This method is sometimes called the feel, felt, found method because of the structure used when speaking to your client. Consider this example. After cushioning and clarifying, you might say something like, "A few of our clients said they feel the same way at first. In fact, Mary Smith felt the same way before she started using our solution, but after just a few weeks, found that the quality was equal to that of other products, and here's why." Now, we highlighted this last method in red because you want to use the postpone method sparingly. In this method, you would go through the first two steps of the 4 C's, but then, instead of addressing the concern right then, you would delay the discussion on their concern after you've covered other information first. While most sales professionals do not recommend using this method, it's most commonly used in a group presentation when an obvious naysayer interrupts a presentation multiple times. And that's because in most cases we found that going through the 4 C's with a sincere mindset of understanding the prospect's concern can really turn their attitude around. Do be aware that it's common for a naysayer to attempt to really push your buttons, so be sure you've done your homework on each of the 8 knowledge bases and practice your mental toughness techniques so you can remain calm during the discussion. After all, if you don't remain calm, it makes it that much more difficult for you to think on your feet and really help address that concern and help change the buyer's perspective to a different way of looking at your product. Now, you've covered some powerful, field-tested information in this breakout session. You know what to do next. Practice and role play the 4 C's on each of your common objections that you wrote down earlier. That way you can sound natural and you'll know when to implement the best method for changing your prospect's perspective. You're here now, so let's get to work.